A very good evening to all of you watching us today on Prime Television and Vasantham TV, and welcome to yet another edition of The Spotlight, bringing to you a story that ignites change. Now, many people resort to courtrooms to resolve their disputes, but today we are here to talk about another alternative that also offers a path to resolution. Today we have with us in the studio Shayhum AbooSalih, the Director of Training and Outreach at Mediate Singapore. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Mariella.
All right, so thank you for joining us today and being here in the studio. Mediation is what we are going to talk about today. Let's start with your journey. How did you get into the field? What are you doing now? And what are the hopes for the future?
So it all started with a program introducing law students to mediation that took place in Sri Lanka in 2021.
Okay, quite recent.
Quite recent.
Yeah.
And but also what they had also included in the program with the spirit of mediation was, okay, listen, even business students can take part. And so I was just getting done with a business degree that I was pursuing, and so I qualified for the program.
Yeah.
And that's actually how I got into the whole thing. They told me that, oh, you need a team and all of this to attend simulations.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, fine, I'll just attend the workshop, understand what mediations are about. And during this program, they told me, look, we feel you're very interested. We're going to give you a shot at some of the simulations, maybe not the final rounds, but maybe some of the preliminary rounds. And I was put together with another teammate, Miss Dinali Gunasekara, who, we seemed to have a good chemistry as a team, and we participated. And we scored the highest in Sri Lanka, which was really a boost for me, because I was the only non-law student who had joined that program. And it sent my entire, trajectory in another path, because I had just finished a degree. I was about to start on a master's of some sorts, and I decided, okay, no, I'm going to do an LLB as well, because I felt an LLB would help me with my writing skills. It will also help me with understanding many different people's perspectives. And that's when law became part and parcel of a very important part and parcel of the work that I do.
Okay, so now mediation and arbitration, okay? What are these? Those are two terms we hear quite often.
Yeah.
They're clearly not the same, but let's hear it from you.
So very simply put, mediation is when you talk out maybe a dispute, a challenge you're having with another party, and there's this neutral third person, the mediator, who facilitates the conversation between the two of you. It's easy, accessible, flexible. It's all about empathizing with each other and trying to understand the interests, and then take forth the conversation so that you all can amicably settle. Arbitration could get a bit technical, but very simply put, it's like a private court case. So instead of paying a country for their judicial services, you would pay an arbitrator or a board of arbitrators to hear your case and maybe issue verdicts to you.
So there the arbitrator is the one who makes the decision,
Yes.
is it? Okay.
However, in mediation, the parties to the dispute would make the decision. The mediator is simply there to help you all talk to each other, provide solutions, and then the 2 or 3 parties, whatever the number may be, they themselves would agree on something, or at least agree on what extent of their disputes can they settle on and what have they not settled on. So maybe they will at least agree, let's talk about this at another negotiation or a mediation.
Okay, now getting back into your journey, I think I missed that question. You have received some awards as well.
Yes.
So let's talk a bit about that as well.
All right. So soon after we scored the highest in Sri Lanka, I was really thrilled, and I felt like I found my calling, and this is something I really want to do with my time. So we started applying for overseas competitions, and then me, Dinali, and there was another girl, Shiandra, who joined our team. We came second place worldwide at the ALSA mediation competition, which was, again, we had a lot of opportunity because these competitions were now accessible online due to COVID. Soon after that, there was a competition happening in Singapore called the IMSG, which was quite a privileged competition to be a part of. However, there was also a ticket price involved now, quite a hefty one. and we spoke to Sean Lim, who felt that, you guys are enthusiastic, we want to support you as well, so you know what, we will waive off the entrance fee for you all, and to be fair by the other teams, maybe we'll remove 1 or 2 perks, but we'll let you participate in all the simulations, and we'll also write to your universities that y'all are hard-working candidates who want to support the growth of mediation. Right after that, I had the opportunity to train teams and tried to participate in more competitions. However, there weren't any openings for almost a year, which is when the competition happened, which was the Bucerius student mediation in Germany, which also now offered a hybrid platform. And because they fully sponsored the program, it was a very good opportunity for us, and I had to wait almost a year to get the invitation or the opening, the slot from them saying, hey, your team put in an inquiry early, we would like to give you a slot.
Yeah.
And here's a slot. So now I had a slot, but I needed a team. It's been almost more than 18 months, 19 months since I first started mediation, and I needed a team. So I had managed to build a network. So I put out a message out there saying, hey, I've got a slot at Bucerius. Is there anyone else who would like to join my team? By the way, the organizers have been kind enough to tell us that if there are people from multiple universities putting a team, we are going to allow them to participate. Which is when one of my contacts, Rishika Pandey in Jindal University, India, one of, I think, quite a prominent law school, said, hey, I need a team as well. Why don't we team up? I met you at the ALSA one, you guys went and became second place. I've done simulations with you. That's where you practice a mediation scenario. So let's put in a team. I'm really, really interested. So we said, okay, let's do that. And so both of us were very, very keen that we need to perform at our best. It doesn't matter whether we got the highest score or how far we progressed, but what was important was we practiced hard and we went and gave our best performance. And so in the last 1 week, I remember I was in Kandy at the time, and we were still having the power cuts, right? Kandy did not have the power cuts because of the Perahera, and then the Perahera ended, so now Kandy also had the power cuts, but I still practiced online with Rishika at least 2 hours a day in the last week. And we went in for the competition, and we did the 3 preliminary rounds, and it was like, so it's, I think, Saturday night or Sunday morning when they tell you, are you going into the semi-finals or not? So we were listening, and they told three European teams, who broke into the semi-finals, and then the 4th team, it was our team. So it was very exciting because there were 2 other all-Indian teams and 2 other all-Sri Lankan teams who had also entered the competition. But we were the only South Asian team to make it in to the program.
So you were competing against other European teams?
All over the world. Singapore, Europe, India, Sri Lanka, yeah.
So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So, so now mediation, that has been in existence for quite some time.
Yes.
But we see over social media and platforms, it's starting to become a hot topic.
Yes.
Why do you think it's becoming very, very spoken about now? Is there any reason for that?
Maybe because with how simple things, like if you're a customer for any type of service or product, you're looking for simplicity, you're looking for ease of mind, all of this. And you're looking for less paperwork, right? Digital user interfaces have become very easy. You look for the form that takes the minimum number of information. That's the form you fill, right? In many aspects, things are becoming easier. So when it comes to even a dispute, people would always want to opt for something that would get your job done faster. Maybe they would even pay a bit more to see that their paperwork is done much more quicker. So when, let's say, companies have a dispute with each other, if they can solve it by talking to each other, that's something they would opt for. If there was someone giving them a service where they help the 2 of you talk to each other because maybe they're an expert in such challenges, or they're just really good at helping people talk to each other when they are, in the heat of a challenging dispute, then people would opt for that.
Yeah. Now let's talk about the role of a mediator in, facilitating communication and finding common ground, between the parties in the conflict.
It's all about listening, I would say.
Okay.
Something that maybe
More than
I'm doing
speaking?
More than speaking,
Right.
because it might be something that I'm doing a bit lesser in this interview.
Yeah.
However, under any mediation training, that would be one of the first things, or one of the most often repeated things, like how much are you listening to the other parties. Even if you are a negotiator in that dispute, talking for the interests of one side, that would be the common feedback that assessors, trainers would give to you. Sometimes the right job of the mediator might even be to just be silent, where people are now talking to each other and the conversation is going.
Okay. So it's sometimes just listening.
It's sometimes a lot of listening, and it depends country to country, place to place, person to person, because some people, they would want a mediator who would be more involved,
Okay.
and
Person to person, it varies.
it would vary a lot.
So now what
Yeah.
happens if one party wants a listener and the other wants someone who speaks and who is very active? How does the mediator balance the two?
I guess that's again the mediator kind of listening to what both of them are expecting. There's also something that they use in competitions called a caucus.
Yes.
And also, personally, I think going forth from the interview, I'll try to use the word student mediation, because a lot of mediators feel that mediation competition is kind of oxymoronic, because you want to facilitate. Even during a student mediation, you would score teams for working together with each other, which is very counterintuitive to what you would find in a game, right? In which game would you score or would you award participants for really working with the other team? The more you work with the other team, the higher chance you have of scoring more points, because that's what you need in real life, right? When you're in a negotiation, you want to work with the other person as much as possible. So this is what is awarded in such a program. And so during the mediation, coming back to your question on what do I prioritize? How do I balance it out? It will come to the mediator listening to both sides, okay, and really playing the role of a counselor very well, where okay, this side wants me to talk more, let me talk. At the same time, this side wants to be heard, so let me allow them to be heard. And like I said, the tool, the mechanism in student mediations, and I'm referring to competitions now, is the caucus, where you would take parties into a private room, or you would give them the suggestion, really. You would give them the suggestion, hey, shall we talk in private? Maybe you have some things to share with me. And then you make the parties comfortable, saying that, listen, maybe if you tell me some areas that you do not want to disclose right away, maybe I'll be able to find some common ground for the two of you. And then they would tell you, oh, actually these particular facts are there, which I'm telling only to you. And then as a mediator, I could suggest to them, I think that if you were to mention this particular area to them and do it like this, it would work better rather than me telling it to them. But it's up to you, it's up to you to decide. And we give them that as a solution. Maybe we'll tell them it seems like they want to be heard a bit more. They want to be listened. So maybe I would suggest to you that listen to them really well, and me as the mediator, I'll take good notes. I would advise in these simulations also, you always bring a lawyer along, because you want to enable the lawyer to kind of use their oratory skills and all of that to be solution driven to society, because most times lawyers are already well groomed to argue a point and prove it. So you're trying to make them more solution oriented to society. So you'll advise the client and the lawyer that, hey, let's maybe listen to what they have to say, take good notes, I'll take notes as well, and then maybe we could call them also for a private meeting and I could listen to them, and if I can see some common ground, I could give that suggestion to them as well, and you guys can continue talking to each other. It's very active listening, I would say, very engaged with the clients, and I guess it comes with the more you keep mediating, or the more you keep negotiating for someone with the attitude of mediation, you acquire the skill of balancing out much better. Yeah.
All right, so thank you for that very interesting, first segment of the show. It's time to head into our first break. Do remain with us. We will be back. We are on the topic of mediation this Monday evening. Alright, welcome back to the show. We are in the topic of mediation this Monday evening with Shayhum AbooSalih. So once again, thank you for joining us. We were talking about this award, and then you also mentioned that you won it.
Yes.
What happened? I think we stopped the conversation.
Oh yeah,
went into something else.
I mentioned that we got into the semis and we were so excited and all of that. And then obviously we got into the finals, and very interestingly we had only 45 minutes to prepare, both teams, my team and the other team who made it to the finals. Just had 45 minutes to prepare. It was a intellectual property problem, and Rishika was like, okay Shayhum, you handle the math and I'll handle the creative collaborative idea that we're going to post to them. We just have 45 minutes, so let's really understand the document that we have. It's about 3 to 4 pages, and let's go into it. So we went in for it quite confident, and even during the round we seemed to maintain our chemistry, maintain the empathy that we need with the other side. And really we actually, in that 85 or so minutes that you're given during a mediation, student mediation, we managed to actually come to an agreement. And then it was obviously a tense moment once the round was over, and then they announced, oh, it's Rishika Pandey and Shayhum AbooSalih who's won it. And
wow.
We were the only online team as well, right? Because the other 3 teams, they were there. Germany at the Bucerius Law School, and we were the only online team as well. So like we could see on the live stream that our faces are projected in big in this auditorium at the university. It was actually a very exciting moment, and it did a lot of good to me and Rishika in terms of our careers in mediation. Because
so that win,
yes,
it was for our country as well.
Yes, so I'm also like the first Sri Lankan and the first Peterite to win at that program.
Okay, so that's victory.
Yeah.
How has it affected mediation now? Do you think that victory has brought in some positive change to the country in terms of mediation?
Well, I've been using that as a stepping stone to speak to media, speak to lawyers, speak to universities, and encourage them to send more students or people who are interested in general
How is
to
the
participate.
response?
People want to learn more, what is mediation and all of that. Even though in spirit it's supposed to be simple, flexible, easy to access, there is this kind of grooming people need to be able to go there, or that motivation for them to go and participate.
Yeah.
Also, compared to maybe debate or speech competition, there's a lot of active thinking that happens during the round.
Yeah.
Because in addition to maybe like your role play and your acting, there's also you got to understand a little bit of maths, a little bit of...
you were mentioning math. I was wanting to ask you, how is there math? Please enlighten me. Math in mediation.
Yes, when I say math, there's a lot of calculation that you got to do. So there might be a business. It's not just listening, it's also counting. So usually one of the team members, it depends, because you could write a mediation case to focus on certain skills that a person should know. But whenever it's a commercial mediation, it's always a business deal, a business transaction, and numbers are important. You have to speak about money.
Exactly.
You may have to draw up a timeline on by which date would something get done. Most times the negotiation would be a delay in payments, or things have got more costly, so you cannot remove numbers from the equation, which brings in the importance of having someone slightly math savvy at least. Because of course in the real world you could use a calculator, something like that, but in the the student mediation per se, you have 60 to 90 minutes. Even those few seconds that you take to do the numbers on the calculator might eat up precious time, right? Which is, yeah, it's definitely an advantage, and any team, it's something they want to really equip themselves with the listening skills, also a little bit of the math skill as well.
So do you think a mediation process is better than parties going into courtrooms to solve disputes?
It's a call that people would have to take. However, I think that is a question that you will be able to answer for yourself at the point when you are deciding, right? Do you want to have the uncertainty of the judge deciding who gets what? Do you want to also have to work according to particular dates that are given to you, and if it doesn't get resolved, another court date, another few more weeks, another few more months? Or like a fellow mediator asked me when I was in Singapore, would you even pay something more than you would pay to resolve your disputes through litigation? That means to resolve it through court. Would you pay someone more so that you could make some progress in a much shorter time?
But also now when people go to court, cases take so many months to be resolved. So is the court also in favor of people taking the step of mediation?
I guess that
I think it helps the court as well, because there are so many cases which have been backlogged. Do you think the court is also in agreement with people saying use mediation as...
definitely better for a country, right? Because you don't need to use the resources for every single dispute. You know, the reason the people actually would either go to court and then be redirected to mediation. Some people call this mandatory mediation, or because this concept, the attitude of let's try to mediate things, let's try to talk to each other, negotiate things out is so prevalent, people won't even be going to court to file their case. They might they would rather go to a mediator, or they would speak to their lawyer. And this is like a project that I'm hoping to start this month, where we would go door to door to law firms and encourage them that, hey, when you get a case from your client, or you have a case that's happening, consider developing a relationship with the other law firm, where you all facilitate the clients of both of you all to talk to each other. You can still charge your client the same amount of money. However, what you're doing is you're making it extremely fast for them. You don't need to, they don't need to wait until it's a court day. You all can offer a space and the time where they can talk to each other, and you would put your know-how as lawyers in providing solutions for them. You know, really, this is like really looking at the interests of your clients and really giving them value for their money. And where you need a bit of help, you could have a mediator also there to help everyone talk to each other.
Now, what sort of cases can people use mediation? Like, is it business? Obviously business, but what are the other issues that people can use mediation?
So maybe I can provide...
Definitely not crime.
Well, there was this one mediator, a person who's been in the field for about 20 years in Singapore, who was also quite perplexed when she heard that, oh, criminal cases are also going into mediation. How does that happen?
Criminal cases can go into mediation?
Well, she was perplexed. That was the question. And then she told me, what she found out was, depending on the scale and the gravity and what the issue was. For example, I was told of someone who had, stole something very meager because of him being hungry in Sri Lanka. So obviously, again, it would first go to the country's judiciary, because the police and all of that do get involved. However, depending on the scale of the case, maybe they would offer the person reconciliation, some type of something amenable. Again, it's within the attitude and the philosophy of mediation, trying to find fruitful ways to take things forward. However, in general, it would usually be disputes between two people or three people, which is not criminal in nature, which could be solved by negotiation, which would go into mediation.
Okay, so now let's talk about training and qualifications. If, let's put myself into a hypothetical position. If I want to become a mediator, what is the process? What is the qualification that I need, What are the requirements in Sri Lanka?
So maybe I'll talk about it at an international level. So
Okay,
for me,
sure.
for example, I've done my 40-hour training. That's the most standard procedure. Even so, and it's at different scales depending on the institute you go for the training. They would charge differently. So my 40-hour training was done with the International Mediation campus, and that too I managed to get a full scholarship. So it's located in Germany. We did it completely online, and at the moment, to help others, to help other lawyers, help other activists. Sometimes people may have been doing mediation their whole life and just not been calling it mediation. They may have been helping people, communities, various entities talk to each other unofficially. Yeah? You might be the guy in the company that they call when there's something
an issue
between
going
HR
on.
and okay, you're the guy they call to talk to each other.
Okay.
You may be that elderly person in your family whom people call to when maybe that
there's a land issue going on.
Land issue, or maybe even a marital issue. People want to like at their next week, you're the person they call when they sit with you, or you and a few other wise elders, or people who are very conducive to helping or facilitating conversations. So to help people like this, and also to get more people equipped with these skills, I've also been researching what are the best 40-hour courses, because once the course is fairly short. It could be 3 weeks, it could be 3 months, a total of maybe within a week, you complete a whole 40 hours. Because they take you from the A to Z of mediation, talk to you about historical cases. So for example, in the one I did, the very last session was how mediation was used during war times. Right, so
back in the day,
back in the day, and maybe even today, right, where governments can talk to each other. Before you invade the country, let's have a conversation.
Wish that is happening,
yes.
to be honest.
Effective peace talk, so to say, not just something that you stall people by, saying that you are going to talk to each other.
Yeah.
And so doing this would get you a license, and each license could be recognized by different bodies. So for example, the one that I did is recognized by the Singapore International Mediation Institute. So they would put up my profile on their website and say, okay, he's qualified or he's accredited, and they would have levels, stuff like that. So if you were to ask me where people should start, I think this is a good start. It's easy, it's convenient. Again, it's within the spirit.
And recognized
as
well
it's also
internationally.
Recognized.
Great. All right, we have to head into our second break for the evening. Remain with us and we will be back. So many questions and so little time. Okay, so if someone does not want to use mediation, if the parties are resistant to this method, what is the next alternative?
Well, in essence, mediation is completely voluntary. I kind of alluded to that in the very beginning when I said that the mediator would give suggestions and they would try to show you the way and you would try to agree. So in essence, mediation is completely voluntary. So
the two parties have to agree first.
The two parties should want mediation. Maybe they can be invited to hear, why don't you consider mediation? It might be more helpful here, all of that. However, in principle, in essence, it's always voluntary. Where that changes is when there's something called mandatory mediation, where the court would only hear your case if you were to first go in for a mediation, and maybe that mediation body or the mediator were to write saying that no, they were unable to come to a settlement together. Because even the settlement, it's something between, it's a completely new contract between the two parties, where they agree on a new set of give and take with each other. And so mediation is sometimes a resorted to mechanism. So for example, you might go into an arbitration and the arbitrator might suggest to you, hey, why don't you all go into a mediation? and then the parties would go into a mediation, and then they would come back into the arbitration.
So it's mixed. So sometimes the two parties might go to court. Court can direct them go to mediation, or it could go to arbitration as well.
The parties may choose. Again, you voluntarily choose to go into arbitration, and the arbitrator may suggest it to you, and then you would again try to sort it out through mediation, or you might deny it completely, saying, no, I want you to decide for me, or no, I don't want to go to court. What happens when it's in law that you must go into mediation, the parties don't have a choice. It's like made mandatory for them. So then they go into mediation, and they obviously, you would want to put in people there who try to facilitate the conversation as much as possible, because now they've been told to go into mediation.
Now there again, the mediator does not have the power to make the decisions for the parties.
Yes.
He just gives out suggestions. Am I right?
And obviously, again, the mediator is supposed to listen, right? So where the mediator can hear the party saying, hey, give us a solution, tell us what to do, then it would be within mediation again for the mediator to kind of be a bit assertive, maybe say, hey, hold on, let me listen to this guy. It's all about really trying to understand what the parties want from you. In theory, you could say the mediator only gives suggestions, and it's completely voluntary, and the parties, decide and talk to each other and all of that. In reality, it would be the mediator listening to what do the parties want. Do they want you to get more involved or not? And really, the end goal. The end goal is that the parties want to settle on something amicably, and getting them there as much as possible.
Now, a question that came in was also, what is the power of the mediator? What is the power he or she have?
I guess it's his reputation and recognition that whatever is discussed there, it's going to remain there. Whatever notes you take, it's going to be shredded, destroyed.
Does the mediator sign any form of confidentiality?
Yes, they do. And I would say that anyone launching a mediation practice should make that part and parcel of the mediation. That they have the parties have the assurance that everything they speak is going to be kept, very integral and very confidential, so that they are assured that they can speak freely. Because the entire space you want to create during a mediation is this environment that I'm comfortable to speak, not that every word or like in a court case, you see this in movies, right, that everything you say and do may and will be used against you. That's not the atmosphere you want to create in mediation. It's, listen, we are trying to hear you out. So you might say something, it could be taken the wrong way, but our intention here is to make sure everyone tries to hear what the other party really wants.
So it's a free space.
Yes, that's what you want to create as a mediator. And it's actually that reputation that you maintain, that people will come, people would recommend you, people will say, oh, this was the environment he or she created for us during the mediation. That is why I would go back to that mediation practice. Or they in their panel they were able to provide a mediator to us who was really good at finding a solution to the challenge we had. For example, an intellectual property problem. There may be someone really who's able to bridge the science and the art of things that comes in with branding, or that comes in with specific engineering design. They're really able to bridge that and draw from a variety of fields and provide a solution to parties. So honestly, the power of a mediator or a mediation practice or a board of mediators is their reputation and recognition that they build over time.
Now, there is also information that there is an amendment coming into the Mediation Board Act. What do you know about this? Is this a stepping stone for Sri Lanka as in terms of mediation? What will the future be like with this amendment coming in?
It definitely shows that lawyers and the government are trying to take steps to encourage mediation in Sri Lanka. For example, the Indian Mediation Act, it caught press and a lot of headlines a few weeks ago.
It's very vague, isn't it?
No, the Indian Mediation Act.
Yes, it's quite broad.
It's quite broad. So Sri Lanka may be some way from getting there in terms of the law and all of that. However, I think we are maybe in a position Singapore was in 20 years ago or something, because when I was speaking to people in the practice over there, they were speaking to me about the challenges and things. And when you really think about it, it's more of the attitude and approach of people. People want to mediate, people want people to think solution oriented, people want to think about the party's interests. It's about creating that attitude, which is where I think Sri Lanka is in now.
Okay, now in terms of, let's take Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
What do you think we need to do more to ensure that mediation is very much more stable than what it is? What do you think we need to do as a country, the authorities? What more do we need to do?
Well, something that my team has been working on is, in addition to coaching and participating at all these student mediations, is the awareness that we are doing with the concept.
You think that there needs to be more awareness from...
I think there needs to be a lot more awareness, and a few lawyers have even encouraged me to take it to the school-based level. You know, why are these student mediations only at the university level? Let's take it to the school-based level. There are also doctors, engineers and other professionals who have said, you know,
this applies to any field when you think about it.
It applies to any field. And you know, previously you asked me about what problem can go through mediation, and I was just about to tell you that in my 20 or 30 scenarios that I've attended, you had issues to do with a car battery and, you know, the lithium supply. You had an issue between an operation gone wrong, so you're having the child's parents and the pharmaceutical company or the hospital having a mediation with each other. At AbooSalih, two of the scenarios were space-related things, where it was astronautical, as in sending up a satellite. You know, the satellite design has changed, and it costs a lot to change it. You know, how are we going to creatively and very accurately, you know, realistically resolve something like this? So there are many and some of my classmates are actually dentists in America, because if there is negligence, or if there is something that went wrong with their procedure, and now the customer is going to sue them in court, if they had the mediation skills, they can at least talk to the customer and give them solutions, or even maybe see how could they use existing resources in the hospital to provide them the right treatment, stuff like that. So getting back to doctors and engineers, MBBS students, all of them qualify to attend these student mediations, by the way, because what happened was that it was popular among law students, but then people were like, you know, negotiating. Everyone negotiates all the time, right? Shouldn't business students be getting this type of exposure from these student mediations? And the doors opened up, and now today people in any field actually participate. Because everyone needs to be able to negotiate better, right? Or everyone would need to mediate something at some point in their life, or be able to access mediation services.
So what you recommend is that this be implemented into the education system in Sri Lanka even from the school level,
right?
The school level.
Because it's better awareness, and
children are grilled to be more, to take rational decisions on themselves, to be able to analyze both parties. So that's a good step.
Yes.
So let's hear what time is catching up.
Okay.
And my final question to you is, what are your thoughts in terms of the future of mediation in Sri Lanka? Where do we stand from a global perspective?
I guess that's honestly in our hands. There's a lot of potential, and being from the island, I feel that innately we are good mediators in a way. I think a lot of people may point to us and say we avoid conflict. It's something you don't want to do during mediation, but we are good at sensing, okay, when things may blow out of hand, you know, deciding when to speak, you know. I feel Sri Lankans are very good at even reading each other. Where we could improve is maybe when there is a time to be a bit outspoken, you know, reality testing. You know, people might not like to talk about money or numbers, you know, at times, so that grooming people to have the confidence to speak when it matters. Because yes, keeping quiet is a good trait to avoid things blowing out of proportion, but at the same time, for you to move forward, you need to be able to speak at the right time, know when to speak, be able to take initiative. I think that's something we can work on for a lot of Sri Lankans. And obviously, I also feel that our top schools around Colombo and in Sri Lanka are at a much more geared level to handle negotiations and mediations, because if you take the students in a O-level or a A-level class, they need to know good English, they need to go and speak to people in companies, directors, they need to negotiate a lot all the time while managing their parents and managing school and also performing well in sports and studies. A lot of multitasking, and multitasking done well, they have to perform in a lot of these fields. So I feel what the world needs to see is the talent in our top schools as well.
What about in the rural areas in Sri Lanka? Is it going out to the rural, like beyond the outskirts of Colombo?
Well, I hope that with our efforts that more outstation principals and school teachers
are open to this.
Speech clubs, debate clubs, where you have students going out there and taking initiative, you also show them, hey, there is something else that you should add to your list of skills, and that is the skill to mediate and negotiate well. Because unlike a speech competition, you don't get to just talk for 8 minutes and then it's the next person's turn. In a student mediation, you might talk for 10 seconds or 60 seconds. It's a call you have to take. There's a lot of looking at each other's face and reading it, having a chemistry with your teammate. And especially the online ones are a very good training, because sometimes you never meet your teammate. Just over the screen, you're looking at 6 faces on the screen and you're building a bond with them, chemistry with them, and deciding when to speak and all of that. Because if even one of the 6 people speak together during an online mediation, it just your ears, it's so disturbing. So you're trained to really pause, take a breath, really think on your feet, right? Because you don't have a lot of time to think as well when you're giving a solution. So I think in terms of simply interpersonal skills, it's something very good for Sri Lankans in the rural areas.
So we're hoping this not only applies to Colombo population, but to the entire population of Sri Lanka.
I'm quite eager to see this happening in Sinhala and Tamil a lot
definitely,
more.
all 3 languages, so that everyone has access to it.
Yes.
And that being said, I think we have to conclude for today. I'm getting instructions from my producer to end things. Time is catching up, and I want to thank you for joining us today, and maybe in a few years or months we might have a catch up and maybe talk about the possible updates that have taken place from this interview until then. So once again, thank you for joining us today, and we were in conversation with Shayhum AbooSalih, Director, Training and Outreach from Mediate Singapore.
Thank you, I appreciate it very much as well.
Thank you. So join us again next Monday as well, you know the drill. Monday at 9 p.m. on Vasantham TV and the official YouTube channel of Prime Television. Until we meet again, stay safe and have a pleasant evening.